Hi there, I'm Lauren and I work with Northsound 1 and I'm also a volunteer for Celebrate Aberdeen, one of the many volunteers. And we're here today because obviously there's some exciting news across the North East. There has been a few awards going around. The Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, which is just an amazing award to get. And there's three groups of people that have got this award. There is Aberdeen Street Pastors, there is We Too, and there is SHMU as well. So today I'm going to be talking to Murray from SHMU. And I want to first of all say congratulations, Murray, and tell us a bit about your role at SHMU.
Oh, well, first of all, hooray! We got the Queen's Award.
Congratulations!
So my name is Murray Dawson. I'm the Chief Executive. I'm the founder and Chief Executive of SHMU, so it was partly my fault. The whole thing's my fault.
Amazing. And how did you feel when you got this award? Was it amazing? Were you like, oh?
Yeah. It was incredible. The biggest challenge about it was that we heard probably 3 months ago, maybe it was even longer than that actually, and there was a big embargo sign on it, which said that if the news gets out that we could lose the award, they could retract the award. So we heard this amazing news that I was desperate to share with everyone. I didn't even tell my mum. Just the worry that if the news got out that it would get taken away. So it was kind of amazing, but we had to kind of go through the whole process again last Tuesday when we heard that when we can actually announce it to the world. So yeah, it was, and it's amazing for the organisation. It's amazing, recognition for the organisation, but recognition for the volunteers who put so much work in. It's just it was fantastic news.
So you've known for such a long time. That must be so frustrating because you're like, just want to say it, and then now you're so used to it. Now you're a Queen's Award. You're used to it. So when the volunteers found out then, and when people found out from SHMU, were they excited? Were they like, yes, we're going to go to a party with the Queen?
So again, we have volunteers who are on our board, who are our trustees. So again, we had a kind of need to know thing going on. So some of the volunteers knew, and some didn't. Some of the staff team knew and some didn't. So it was just good last week to be able to tell everyone, at 2 minutes past midnight, we could tell everyone, and there was no, and we did say when we put an email out to all the volunteers, and we put at the bottom, so we're going to have to decide which two of you get to go to meet the Queen. And who knows? Who knows when it'll be?
Well, how are you going to decide?
Well, I think, personally, I don't think it should be me. I don't think I should be going. I think it should be two of our volunteers that should go. How we're going to decide, I don't know. It's going to be a while away yet. So the process is that we will meet the Lord Lieutenant, which I think is Councillor Barney Crockett. I think they'll give us the award sometime in July, and I don't even know how that will happen. Maybe physically distancing, kind of like with a long 2-meter pole to give us the award. Yeah, or throw it up in the air and we have to catch it with some gloves on. I'm not quite sure how that will work. So we'll get the award, I think, in summer, in July. And then the idea, I think, is that next summer there'll be some sort of garden party at Holyrood House. And I'm not sure the Queen always goes to that one, but I think there's also an offer to go to Buckingham Palace as well. So I'm not sure. Just hope by then that, everyone's desperate to get out anyway, but by next summer, hopefully things will have been resolved and we can have a normal party with the Queen. Not that a party with the Queen's normal, but anyway, have a normal party. And I'll also have a party with our volunteers. We have lots of celebration events with our volunteers, and we haven't had any obviously since March. So really looking forward to just seeing everyone and kind of celebrating with everyone in person. We had a big Zoom call on Wednesday night last week with about 20 or 30 volunteers, and it was great to see everyone and talk about the award. But it was nothing better than actually seeing them in the building in the flesh. That's
exactly it, and it'll be so exciting though when you get that to finally happen. I guess it's probably going to happen next year, postponed till next year. But I mean, what an absolutely fantastic award to win. It's a once in a lifetime, isn't it? It's amazing. So can you tell us what the volunteers and the staff at SHMU, what they're doing on a daily basis?
Well, we're more or less doing what we were doing before. So we've got around 200 or so volunteers actively involved in these are our adult volunteers and some of our young people as well, actually, actively involved in producing radio. The magazines are still ongoing. We're still doing bits of video. We're doing a lot of online work. So our volunteers, we had this whole process from lockdown in the middle of March, considering what are we going to do and how we're going to transform our work from working in our fantastic new building that we built last year to online. And there was a worry that maybe we would just kind of begin to close down and shut up shop, but actually it's been the opposite. And there's about 90 hours of live radio being produced from people's bedrooms and uploaded and broadcast across the city. The magazines, which we thought, well, maybe we can't carry on doing the magazines, but people are desperate to have them. So volunteers are still writing the magazines. Photographs are being taken early morning, and beautiful magazines are being distributed free through doors. So everything is still going on. In fact, there's probably just about as much, if not more, effort going on from our volunteers. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is it. I think this is the time where people need it the most. People need the voices that they know. They need the magazines. They need the entertainment that they crave.
Yeah.
It's a weird world. It's a really weird world. So big hats off to the
and we've also developed this Tell Us campaign, which is our radio station very much about the community and messages from the community and celebrating our community. But we've also taken the opportunity to try and gather more messages from our partners, from services that are delivering services in the community. So there's been a lot more of that, where partners are basically taking over shows, and and they're able to share exactly what they're doing. So we've got radio and the magazines covered, because I think the recognition is that there's a lot of information online. But for those who are not online, for those who are digitally excluded, it's much harder to get those messages. So it's just amazing how the volunteers have risen to the challenge, and there have been some challenges. And the staff team.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, this is the time where radio is so important. We always go back to radio. I know it's not just radio you guys do at SHMU, you're doing loads of other stuff, but radio is so important to get that message out, isn't it? It's one of those mediums that's always been really, important. But
it is.
So can you tell me a little bit of kind of history about SHMU then? How long have you been around Aberdeen and things?
So as I said, so I was the founder. I mean, it started, I was a community arts officer with the city way back, probably, I'm thinking just the first kind of pilot project we did was probably around about 1997. There was a project where we were looking at using video, which at that time in 1997 video it wasn't like making a TikTok video in 5 minutes. It was a bit harder to use video. So we use video as a tool for working with young people to try and kind of look at issues. And that was quite successful. And then then the building, Station House, which is a community centre. I don't know if people think Station House like Broadcasting House. Station House isn't Broadcasting House. Well, actually, now that we've had a £1 million development, it is a bit more like a Broadcasting House. But Station House is actually the railway station in Woodside. That was Station House. It was a station master's house. So it's nothing to do with radio, although people think, oh, Station House, it must be the radio station. No, it's Station Master's house. So that building in 1998, 1999 was going to be sold. It was a community centre. It was a bit underused. And I asked if I could set up office upstairs. There was a pensioners group downstairs. They were doing bingo and a few weekly events. So that was really the origins of using that as a base for what was called the Great Northern Partnership at the time, which was a social inclusion partnership looking at Middlefield and Tilly Road and Woodside, looking at ways of working with the communities there to bring about change, tackle poverty and social disadvantage. So I set up office there, and then things just evolved. We were doing a bit of film. People asked if we could support the communities to develop some magazines. Radio actually came much later. 2005 was when the community radio order became law in the UK. And some of our volunteers who were on the management committee, who were doing a magazine in Tillydrone called the Tilly Tattle, did an audio version of an RSL in the city centre, Me FM as it was at the time, came back from that and said, we want a radio station. Murray, we want a radio station. And by that time, we'd set up as a charity. We had the board and we had the trustees, and it was very much, and still is very much, community-led. So people wanted a radio station, we'll have a radio station. So we applied and got the license in 2007. And in terms of radio, the rest is probably history. But and 2 years later, we had the transmitter, we were broadcasting, and the rest in terms of radio is probably history. But what we use media as a tool. So we have radio, we have film. We've got our magazines that now they do have a purpose in themselves, and they are sharing content and telling stories. So our work is very much now about outcomes. It's about using media as a tool for transformation, for individual, personal, collective, community transformation. We've got a really big employability strand, so we support young people and adults actually into employment. We work in the prison actually. We've got a radio station. Everything we do in the community, we do an HMP grampian, and we support people through the gate and to carry on engaging in the community. We work with a lot of adults who have got some challenges. So it's very much about how can we use the mediums for celebrating our communities and sharing information, but how can we also use the process of that to develop individual skills and help people progress in their own pathways, especially if they've got some barriers.
That's brilliant. That's exactly it. I actually went into the prison to see the whole shebang.
Okay.
Tev's kind of, he brought us through everything, and it was fascinating. I mean, like, just to get the prisoners kind of involved in radio and like where they would go after this. It's good to get involved.
It is amazing, and again, at the moment we're not in the prison, so we've all the services are out of the prison. It looks like we might be back in, but what we've carried on doing, and we've got a program called Staying Connected. So we actually managed a channel on the TV screens in the cells, in the prisoner cells, and it's called Channel 21, and that's always been where they've shared the radio. So it's got some SHMU on there. It's got their own radio, which is called Con Air. That's their own radio station, and also National Prison Radio. So there's those kind of three stations are broadcast throughout the day. So we're kind of managing that, and we're getting requests in. We're using email prisoner. We get requests from some of the people who've been involved. We've got people sharing messages from the community. We've got people who were in prison who are now in the community creating shows and content that are being broadcast in the prison. It's amazing. So it's just for us, it's another point of contact, another community, people that we can work with to support and help.
I think this is exactly it. This is fab, because then they can go out and maybe try radio. But also, for kids, there's not a lot of opportunities in radio now because of, different things. So it's to get them kind of into the platform, isn't it?
I think our recognition is that and we do a lot of employability work, and for some of our people we're working with, they've left school and it hasn't been successful when they've been at school. And we make it clear that the course isn't necessarily for them to work at Northsound, because there's not that many jobs in the sector. But if they can undertake an interview, if they can do some research and interview someone on the radio, then when it's spun around the other way and they go to a job interview, they've got an experience of that. They can deal with the interview because they know how to lead an interview. But they've also got a story to tell. They've got something interesting to say at their interview. So we do recognise, there are actually more jobs in media. If you think about social media, now, there are more jobs probably than ever. But actually it's more about that broader, rounded kind of life skills and core skills that our work often helps to develop.
That's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's perfect. It kind of gives the whole experience, studying media, you need to know kind of everything, So my next question is, you've got you're doing really well, and you've got yourself a Queen's Award for voluntary service, but what's next for SHMU? What are you aiming towards? What's your dreams now?
We recently moved into, which was a bit disappointing, but just over a year ago, we moved into a £1.5 million development of our building, which was amazing. That was our dream. We had a 5-year plan 6 years ago, and part of the heart of that 5-year plan was a state-of-the-art facilities. And if you haven't been, you should come and have a look when we can. So that's got new studios, we've got a TV studio. It's an amazing facility. It was so disappointing to be a year out from that, not to be able to celebrate it with everyone because we're all kind of in lockdown. And so that was our big vision last time. In terms of a vision moving forward, we probably haven't got a big one like that we can kind of all focus on. So we are looking at sustaining, because that's a big thing at the moment, is actually, as organisations, how do we sustain ourselves in these difficult situations, and how do we move forward with physical social distancing, and how we're going to carry on developing services. So there's a bit of a short-term bit of work that needs to be done at the moment, which I'm very confident both our volunteers and our staff that we'll push through that one quite easily. We're talking already about service redesign and how can we move things online and then take them offline again. But things like digital, which again has become very important recently, digital inclusion. So we're looking at how can we wirelessly enable communities, for example. And if we wirelessly enable communities, let's look at building community websites. So when you go online, you get your community website and you get all your information, and the radio might be on there, and your local community TV. Community TV is a big one. We've got some funding from the government. Unfortunately, we've had to stop for a wee while, but the new TV studio will mean that we will have a community TV station that will be facilitating, and again, it'll be run by the community. So the interesting thing for us, is with radio, we never knew what would happen. We got our license, we started to train local people, and it's very much about local people who decide what the content is. So if you train 50, 20, 30, 40, 50 adults and young people in how to operate a TV studio, TV station, what content will they come up with? So give us a year or so and look online, and you'll see SHMU TV, and it'll be interesting to see what that is, because I've got no idea what it'll be.
Nobody knows. Well, that's the most exciting part of it then. All right, Murray. Well, it's been amazing to talk to you, and once again, well done to you and your team for, that award. It's just incredible. And
yes, absolutely.
If you are going to go, are you going to have to buy yourself a new kilt or a tie or to the garden party?
Me?
Yeah,
Me?
if you decide.
I personally don't think I should go. I think the award is for the volunteers. So I'm gonna, not that I don't like wearing a kilt, but I think 2 volunteers should be. It's the honor is for the whole organisation, but I'd love it for 2 volunteers to go. So that I don't know how we'll decide, but that's so somebody else will get a kilt.
Somebody else will have to pick out a nice tie or whatever, a nice outfit. Yeah. All right, Murray, thank you so much for chatting, and you take care.
Thanks very much, and you.
Okay,
Cheers.
see ya.
Bye.